All right, I'm really inspired to be here with Cynthia Killion today. We're going to talk about a topic that I really enjoy, and I know it's not a topic that I usually discuss on my page, but I think a lot of you watching are interested too, which is the topic of our life design, the soul destiny for our life, and no one better to talk about this with than Cynthia. Hi, Cynthia. It's good to have you here.
Hello, everybody. And it's
Yeah.
so lovely to be here with you and your tribe.
Yeah, thank you. Well, let me go ahead and share your official bio with the audience so that they can get a sense of your background, and then we'll get on with this wonderful conversation. So, Cynthia is a psychic, astrologer, rune reader, and medium with over 30 years of experience in reading for and mentoring others in doing this kind of work. Gifted with the second sight from her grandmother on her father's side, she had the first spiritual psychic awakening at the age of 5 when she was visited by the spirit of the white buffalo while out walking in the Kansas woods with her brother. And ever since then, she knew that she was called to serve as a conduit and channel for the spirits and the psychic realm. Her passion is helping clients to receive the guidance and life direction they need from their own spirit guides and passed on loved ones, and helping them to awaken to their own psychic gifts. So let's start with this topic of the grand design, fate, destiny. Uh, you have spent many years not only thinking about it, but working with people about it. So I know we have such a short time and this is a huge topic, but I'll let you start wherever you'd like to with that.
Well, first of all, when I think of fate, not just think of it, but when I experience it on an energetic level, this is like a matrix, a blueprint that we all have. I mean, when I am reading for somebody, I can sense this matrix, this blueprint, you might say coming off their energy fields or within them. Um, and you can kind of think of it in an ecological sense that I think many of our people watching will understand that in ecology, there is a web of life and everything is interconnected. And so man and women, humans, we are a micro of the larger ecology is how I think of it. And you mentioned when we started all my plants. So forgive me, I will use a lot of nature references probably because I find God and fate and the psychic realm in nature as well as in us. So we're a part of nature. And if you look at nature, for everything, there seems to be a design, a plan. I mean, with these plants around me, they all follow a certain blueprint towards growth. It's not random. You know, if you plant a sunflower seed, you will get a sunflower. You will not get an airplane plant or a palm plant. And so just take it to that level. I think from the most basic evolutionary simplistic level, this can be understood. And we could, of course, philosophize about it. But in addition to being a psychic, I am a natural observer. So I see many spiritual truths are revealed to us in nature. So I know that wasn't in my notes, but that's the fast answer, right? Is
Yeah,
that there is a
yeah.
blueprint, and that is evident unless you think humans are completely different from any other aspect of nature, which would be silly, okay, and not logical. So much of the psychic realm is actually quite logical in a grounded sense, based on grounded observation. So
Now,
yes, there's a beautiful design for us all.
yeah, it's a wonderful way of thinking about it, and it makes a lot of sense. Now, the question, of course, I think a lot of people would say is, or I would say is, well, then how do we know what our blueprint is?
Well, that is a big question, and I don't know if I know all the answers to that. I doubt I do. Uh,
Which which is a correct type of modesty. It makes
okay,
sense.
it's
Yeah,
just truth.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah, yeah.
um, but what I feel for all of us is that life is always giving us signs the same way, life gives the sunflower signs, through the sun, what direction to follow. So, I mean, looking at my own life and okay, and just for the viewers and people who want to know more for your own path, you can think about even events in your childhood and things that happened and how those shape us and put us on a certain path. And that is part of our fate, the blueprint. Now, when I say fate, and I'm jumping ahead just a little here, I mean, understand that I acknowledge the presence of free will. I mean, there is there is fate and there is free will. They're turning around each other. And that's why I say it's a matrix. It's actually a double matrix, fate and free will dancing around each other. So there's a path that nature, God, source, spirit, your own soul, if you want to say that, there's a path that your higher self is always directing you towards, but there is some fluidity to it. There's an elasticity because of free will. This is one of the things that makes humans a bit different from other entities on the planet. So, but you know, we can sense it. I think one way is to look at what you really enjoyed in childhood, what you know, maybe what you didn't enjoy can also be, there can be great gifts in that. I want to say that this isn't all just love and light. I am about love and light, but I had a lot of trauma in my own childhood, and I don't talk about that publicly much because it's not what I'm about, but I learned a lot from that too. So I think that can be part of it. The trauma that I endured propelled me forward to be a healer, to want to help people with my gifts in the spiritual psychic realm. So
Yeah.
you know, there's a reason for everything
Mm.
that happens. I believe that, or most things. Let me say most things. Maybe some days you just plan a picnic and it rains. Okay, I get that. But these significant events in life, whether we're talking on a personal level or a collective, there is a reason, there is a design behind it. It's life showing us where to go. So we just need to look for the patterns.
Wow, that's beautiful. Yeah, and when we're able and willing to step back to notice the patterns. I mean, I think sometimes we might get too stuck into one particular event in our past,
Yes.
right? And you know, we only extract, unfortunately, the pain from that event, or you know, the kind of the baggage that we took from that event. But
Right.
but if we, yeah, like you said, if we were able to step back, and is that something that you help clients do? Is it kind of looking
It
more
is
at
something that I help
patterns?
clients do. I mean, I really
Yeah,
should say that the spirits and guides in their own soul that works through me
yeah.
helps them to do that.
Mm,
Because anytime you're reaching up into the cosmic perspective,
yes.
you know, you're it's almost Zen. I don't claim to be a Zen Buddhist, but I do see some correlation, you know, between what I do and that Zen perspective. So you're stepping up a notch, so to speak, or looking from a higher vantage point. And that helps you to see, again, the big picture, the web of life, the web of your life. You know, if you just look at one part of the web of life, I mean, think about spiders. People are so terrified of spiders, but if you step back from a higher level and look at what they do and the roles they play in keeping the insect population, you know, balanced, they're so important, right? They're such a gift.
Mm,
So even the spiders in our lives can carry uh, great power, great
yeah.
gifts. I mean, this could be
Mm.
those things that have happened to us uh, could be contain the nexus of our life purpose, actually.
It's beautiful. And I also, if we continue stepping back a little bit, we could see that the events that happen to us or through us um, were also important for other people and other
Yeah,
parts of the ecosystem. It's not just about our own life. You know, it's
right.
like, right, it's like something random or even something painful that happened to us may have been an important experience for somebody else too. And also for, I don't know, I just feel like, so yeah, I mean
Yes, I
one
agree with that. That's a,
yeah,
you know, we might call that a soul contract.
right, yeah,
And I'm sure
yeah,
you've heard of that.
yeah.
If the viewers haven't, I mean, this is the idea which I do subscribe to because,
Hmm.
again, I've seen these things in people's energy fields. I've seen that people make plans before they're born together to go through certain experience, and often those experiences are uncomfortable and painful because it seems it's a quality of the human animal that this is how we learn very well. And I mean, I would like to say, I know you can learn through ease and grace and abundance, and I love all that. That's a goal, but it's not a natural instinct for most humans. We have to experience a little bit of the uncomfortableness before we awaken. It seems.
Yeah,
It seems.
yeah, yeah. Thank you for that. So we've talked a bit about the past. Let's talk about the future. um, One of the things that people are always, especially when they approach a psychic, you know, they might say,
Yes.
"Oh, tell me what's going to happen to me. Tell me if I'm going to meet the one. Tell me if my business is going to do really well. Tell me what kind of problems I should be looking out for. I mean, I'm sure you get these kinds of questions all the time.
Yes,
So,
each one of those we could do an interview
oh
on.
my goodness. So
You
how do
know,
you, yeah, kind of give us a touch in on how do we relate to fate or what's going to happen to us?
well, first of all, there is fate, and I did say that, but this blueprint, remember, uh, this energy, this path has some elasticity. There's a fluidness,
Yeah,
and
right.
we get to work within the blueprint. We might even be able to change the blueprint here. Now, that's not easy. I will say that, and that takes a really conscious person. That takes it takes discipline, actually, not just conscious. A lot of people are willing to look at their past and do the therapy, and kudos to you. If you're watching, you're doing it, that's great. But then sometimes we can get stuck in that, healing aspect and forget about the discipline aspect, which is something I'm always working on for myself, because there's many areas of life where I'm not disciplined enough, many where I am, but many where I'm not.
Yeah, we can all we all have areas like that.
So, I mean, for me, being a psychic is more, in the practical financial realms. I mean, I'm very good with the down to earth gardening and herbs and health and those things. But so that's how I'm working to change my own fate, right? Is by bringing more attention to the areas where we have challenges. You might say karma. You could use that term if you wanted.
Interesting.
Uh,
Yes.
you could use the term Orlog or weird. They use it in the northern runic traditions, which I am an adherent of. But even in those traditions, we understand that we can almost like fight against fate. I hate to put it that way, but because it's not really fight against fate, it's molding fate, working with it, making the best with what you have. I mean, you can't help it if, like me, I think I was always going to be a psychic. Looking back, even though I'm intelligent and have degrees and I could be an ecological scientist, or there's lots of different things I could be, and it could have gone into, but this was always my fate. Somehow it was going to find me. But what I do with that is up to me. And same for all of you watching. I mean, what you do with it is up to you, how you shape it and mold it. And and in terms of romance, I just want to say as a side note, I wasn't planning on this. I think it's important though, because people have a lot of misconceptions. Uh, you know, finding the one is only the beginning. I mean, if you've been in a relationship long term, I mean,
Sure.
talk about something
Yeah.
that takes discipline,
Oh yeah.
diligence, attention.
Yeah. Yeah.
You might not want to find the one.
Yeah. It's funny. I just saw a movie. It was called The Professor with Johnny Depp. Anyway, at the end of well, I don't want to spoil it, but he says to his wife, "You have been a fine adversary, and I love you deeply." And I was like, wow, what a profound idea. It's like, yeah, the people brought into our lives isn't just to make us have fun, and we get to everything's always like, no, yeah, you're right. It's a partner. It's a partner in growth,
Right.
isn't it?
That's
Yeah.
who the one is. Now, you might have a fling, a romance, and that's fun,
Right.
right?
Right.
But that's the one, there's often lessons that we need
Mhm.
to learn. That's part of the soul contracts. And or even if the lesson is just to learn and grow together and help each other be on your path of purpose, that's challenging sometimes. So it's not all roses. Sometimes it's cacti too.
Yeah, yeah, because well, let me ask you this question. What do you think is the purpose of human life? Uh,
I personally feel, and please, don't take this as the gospel, because I don't think any of us can really know
right.
beyond a doubt here.
Yeah.
And if anybody says they know, I don't know if I would trust that.
Yeah, it's like they're closing. The way I think about it is, if I know all the things there are to know about spirituality, or it's like, well, it's like, okay, if I know, that means I'm closing myself off to
Right.
uncertainties and to further knowledge. It's like, or I'm opening myself up to being very embarrassed if I come across something that shakes my worldview or whatever. But yes, I
Yes.
appreciate the wisdom of saying, well, this is what I know for now.
Right. Well,
Yeah.
and I don't want to limit it, because I think that life, again, my observation from looking at nature, is that life is always evolving and growing. So the purpose of life now could be different than the purpose of life in, 1,000 or 10,000 years from now. But I feel that what I see in the readings that I do for people, what I hear from guides and things, I feel that it's a real privilege to be here, to be incarnated. I do not, I just want to say this, I do not look at Earth as a prison. I do not look at it as a punishment, because I've actually seen visions where I have seen souls fighting to get in to bodies, that there's not enough bodies. And I know we talk about world overpopulation, but there's more entities, souls that want to experience this wonderful playground and a place, a field of creativity. It's a field of creativity and experiencing. And yes, there's lessons, but it's also creating and experiencing in a tangible way that you can't do in other dimensions.
And a lot of the, well, what I've read through just many different traditions, it's like the kinds of lessons we learn here, we somehow learn it faster here, or learn it better here than if we were not embodied in this place. Right? And it's not just, it's not just the afterlife or spiritual literature that says there are, lots of people wanting to incarnate. I mean, even, ancient Buddhist traditions say that the privilege of living this one life, it's like there are many, many souls that would wish they were here, or something like that. It's like a long line of people. So it's like it's so precious. When we say life is precious, it's not just that life literally is precious from a secular perspective, but spiritually speaking, this life, earth life, is a precious experience, right?
Yes, it's a unique opportunity. And even if you believe in reincarnation, as I do, each life is unique. You literally only live this life once. I don't care how many lifetimes you have. If you have 50,000, you only live this one incarnation once. And that's really, unique. And all of the spirits always talk about that. And even when I'm helping somebody who's lost a loved one and they want to connect, almost always the loved one will talk with that person here about, they want them to keep enjoying their life here. They want them, because we're here, right? We're meant to enjoy and not just be stuck in grief. Of course, grief is natural when somebody's passed, but if we stop living, that's not good. That's not good. So yes, it's such a gift, such a gift.
Tell us more about, gosh, there's so many other questions I want to ask you, but for the sake of time, two more things. One is, how should we think about our spirit guides? There are, some people believe in angels, or there's a higher self, there is passed on loved ones, there might be, a soul mentor. I mean, what is your, maybe just in a very short nutshell, tidbit, like, what is your perspective on that?
Well, first of all, I would say whatever your own personal understanding is for the individual, if you feel that it is your, say, ancestors that are your spirit guide, and I mention that because that's a real common feeling and belief worldwide, that it's either our ancestors or somebody who's passed on. If that's who you relate to, then that's what you should focus on. You don't need to feel like you need to pick up somebody else's understanding. If your understanding is the higher self, if your understanding is, angels, and I understand all of these to be true from my experience, and that's not a belief for me, that's an experience of interacting with entities. Now that doesn't mean you've had that interaction, that the viewers have had that interaction. So, I would say in pop spirituality, which, I mean, I love that it's getting more popular, but I also am not happy about how it gets kind of contaminated by that. There's a belief that you can just kind of go around and pick your guide, and you pick your flavor of the month. And my experience has shown me that, again, this is part of our path. The guides pick us, we pick the guides, on a deeper level, probably before we're ever born. I mean, I was 5 years old when I seen my first spirit guide, the spirit of the white buffalo. I had no understanding what that meant. I didn't even know that I was Native American, because that was covered up in my family. That was, shameful, because that's just the way the culture was. And I didn't know, who, and you may not be familiar with the myth, but some watching will be, they will know who Buffalo Calf woman was. She was a peace bringer. So I didn't know that, right? I didn't read some book and say, oh, I'm going to, commune with white buffalo. It's okay if you want to do that. I think intentionality is fine. The most important part, though, is to be open. And when your guide comes, I mean, I don't care if his name is Bob and he seems to wear trousers. That's great. Then that's your guide. I actually had a client like that. Her guide's name was Bob, and he was
Wow.
very helpful.
Huh.
He helped her in a lot of practical matters. So,
Wow.
and that's the other thing, the guides do want to help us, and they'll give you signs. If you ask and you're open, they'll show you the way.
So let's complete by, I want to make sure people understand some of the services that you provide. And you provide one-to-one services. You also provide mentoring on the stuff. So what kinds of clients do you really love working with, or students? Tell us about what kinds of people should reach out to you.
Well, I love working with people who are open and, inquisitive, and you don't have to be a complete believer. I don't really ask you to believe anything, just to be open to the experience. And if, you maybe are tired of living life in a box, and you realize on some level that there's more to life than just this physical world, and maybe you want to bring some of that magic and enchantment. I mean, I kind of think of what I do as bringing awakening the magic and enchantment within you, when you connect with this part of yourself. And even if it's just to get guidance about your career or your love life or your health or your business. I mean, I really like helping people with their sense of direction and purpose. And then, of course, I love helping others who have an interest in their own, intuitive or psychic or guides. I mean, that's not a prerequisite to working with me. If you just need help with your problems and you maybe think that turning to the spiritual world might be a good idea, then we'll probably be a good fit for each other. That's a good start, at least.
It's wonderful, wonderful. And do you teach online courses at all?
I do. I mean, I wish I could do it as often as you recommend. I'm working on it. But I have one coming up, actually, just a little mini course. It's just 2 classes, and that is a rune intro course.
RUNE, runes. Yeah.
RUNE, the runes, as I like to call it.
Yeah. Tell us what kinds of courses you teach. What kinds of topics?
Well, I teach a broad spectrum across the spiritual psychic realm, and they can actually check out my course website, and I'll get you those links.
Yes, please. Yes. We'll have
they must
it
have got
below.
cut off. But I have some of these courses that are my premier courses, the ones that I want to represent me over time. I have some of those as self-study courses on my websites.
Good.
Now this is a new course, but I have an Awakening Your Inner Psychic video course that you can work on your own. That's a good beginner. I have some interesting courses that are just audio, but they were recorded live, spiritual psychic development. I have actually the equivalent of 2 years worth of that on my website. And these were actually taught and recorded live at a spiritualist camp, which is very rare to have any of these kinds of classes broadcasted, from a really authentic place. Let's say it's one of the oldest spiritualist camps. So this is a place where people have gone to commune with the dead since the 1880s.
Is it in New York? Is it?
No, actually, it's in Kansas, and a lot of people don't know about it. And I do know about Lilydale. So Wales, Kansas, there's nothing there but 26 people that live in the town.
Incredible. Wow. Interesting. Well, Cynthia, there's links. Those of you who are watching this, please check out the links below to learn more about what Cynthia's services, courses, her content, etc. Thank you so much for the work that you do, and for the integrity and authenticity with which you do it. And just looking forward to seeing more people benefit from what you do. Thanks, Cynthia.
Thank you, George.